All stories are dramatized recreations. Named locations are fictionalized. Any resemblance to real persons is coincidental.
Hi, I'm Abigail, a 34-year-old realtor from Flay. Sharing this is hard, but I need to process how my husband Daniel's affair with our neighbor shattered our 10-year marriage. It began when I found texts on his phone, late-night messages about borrowing sugars while I was showing condos in Coral Gables. The emojis winked at me like shared secrets. For months, I'd dismissed his overtime at the architecture firm, his sudden gym routines. That Florida heat everyone loves. It started feeling like wet gauze on my skin. Our Spanish-tiled pool became a stage where they'd laugh too loud, her neon bikini against his tan. I kept staging perfect homes for strangers, polished counters, orchids in vases, while ours cracked like sun-baked concrete. That first proof was a champagne cork in our recycling bin, from a brand we never drank. The silence after discovery is the loudest sound you'll ever hear. I stood there holding that champagne cork-ridged edges biting into my palm, while Daniel snored in our bedroom, oblivious. His phone glowed on the counter, tomorrow, from Jen next door. 10 years. 10 years of his hands tracing my spine before dawn, Sunday pancakes shaped like hearts, whispering, "Miracle," when our miscarriage test turned pink then faded. All reduced to this stupid cork in my fist. Morning came anyway. I drove clients through Coconut Grove, pointing out crown molding with a voice like frozen glass. Notice the natural light here. Sunbeams stabbed through bay windows, spotlighting dust on hardwood. All I saw was Jen's laugh lines creasing at our barbecue last month, how she'd accidentally brushed Daniel's wrist, reaching for sangria. My fingers tightened on the steering wheel. This master bath features dual vanities, perfect for couples who don't share recycling bins with neighbors. At home, I counted betrayals like mislaid tiles. That weekend, he helped her fix the pool pump, his hair damp when he returned. The sudden interest in keto because Jen says it's life-changing. Her Amazon package delivered to us by mistake, containing lingerie he swore was for her sister's bachelorette. Lies stacked like unsold condos, hollow and waiting to collapse. I tried to work, opened MLS listings until the screen blurred, typed spacious walk-in closets, while imagining Jen's sundress shoved beside Daniel's shirts. My phone chimed, a reminder for his birthday dinner at Burns Steakhouse. Reservations made months ago when her name was just a polite wave across hedges. Now the thought of candlelight made bile rise. He found me on the lanai at dusk, staring at their shared fence. Long day? His fingers grazed my shoulder. I flinched, his touch now a live wire. Just tired, I murmured, tasting the lie. He smiled, that easy grin that once anchored me. Jen's making ceviche tomorrow. You in? The pool lights flickered on, turquoise waves lapping at steps where her coral-painted toes dipped last week. I almost said it then. I know. Instead, I watched a gecko dart toward her yard, escaping. Later, digging for earrings, I found the cork again. Hidden beneath pearl strands he gave me on our 5th anniversary. For my flawless girl, he'd said. Now it felt like evidence in a case against us. I pressed it to my nose, still faintly sour. Proof. Real as the stucco walls closing in. The ache hummed, but I was sweating. Florida's eternal summer had turned claustrophobic. No ocean breeze, just the weight of what festered next door. Sleep didn't come. I replayed every fracture, him volunteering to check her leaky faucet during my closing, her showing up, just returning your Tupperware, with smudged lipstick, that work trip to Miami where his location shared vanished for 6 hours, each memory a shard. I clutched a pillow smelling of his cologne, woodsy and false. Outside, palm fronds rattled like bones. I wondered if she was awake too, if they were texting, if he ever compared the way we, stop. Dawn bled pink over the bougainvillea. I dressed mechanically, blazer, slacks, armor for another day, selling dreams I no longer believed in. Daniel stirred, reaching for me. Love you, abs. The words hung, gauzy and cheap. I froze. 10 years of I love yous now sounded like a language I'd forgotten. You too, I whispered to the doorway. The lie left frost on my tongue. Driving to a listing, I passed their houses, identical Mediterranean revivals. His car gone early meeting, hers parked askew, one tire kissing our lawn. A kid's bike lay toppled in her drive. Normal, domestic, a perfect stage set. I gripped the cork in my pocket, edges worn smooth from my thumb's restless orbit. At the empty condo, I stood before floor-to-ceiling windows. Below, sailboats dotted Biscayne Bay like scattered wishes. My reflection stared back, a woman fraying at the edges. Professional, poised. Pretending. The cork dug into my palm. One press of Jen's contact photo would end it. Coward, I thought, but the truth was this: destroying us meant destroying myself. Who was I without Daniel's miracle? Without our story, the silence roared again. The cork became my secret compass. I'd roll it between fingers during open houses. Granite countertops, smart home system, its ridges mapping the grooves in my marriage. Daniel texted, "Working late. Don't wait up," while Jen's Instagram showed sunset cocktails at Matheson Hammock. Same striped umbrella in the background I'd bought him last Father's Day. Notice the reclaimed wood accents, I told the young couple touring the bungalow, my voice steady as I pocketed the cork. Their linked hands felt like a dare. 3 days later, I found the receipt. Tucked in Daniel's gym bag behind protein bars. 228, at Victoria's Secret. Date, my birthday month. Size, not mine. The paper hissed as I smoothed it on my lap. Silk and lace paid for with our joint account. Outside, thunder growled Florida's daily tantrum, but I sat dry-eyed at the kitchen island. Rain sheeted down the sliding doors, warping Jen's pool into a smudge of blue. I drove to Jen's brokerage, parked across the street watching her through rain-beaded glass. She laughed with colleagues, gesturing with a iced coffee. Her linen dress clung in the humidity. Professional realtor, neighbor, homewrecker. The labels jammed in my throat. I rehearsed walking in. Does Daniel prefer the black lace or the red? But my hand stayed welded to the gear shift. Cowardice tasted like stale coffee. At home, I tore our bedroom apart. Dug through sock drawers, flipped mattress corners, unscrewed vent covers. Nothing, of course. He'd keep it at her place. Our king-sized bed yawned empty. Daniel stuck at the office. I collapsed onto his pillow, inhaling deceit, masked by citrus cologne. The ceiling fan spun lazy circles, stirring ghosts. Flashback, year 7. We bought this house. Daniel carried me over the threshold, whispering, "Forever starts here." We made love on unpacked boxes, moonlight striping our skin. Now those same floorboards creaked under my solitary pacing. The confrontation came unplanned. Jen rang our bell at 9 p.m., borrowed your hedge trimmer last week. So sorry. Raindrops jeweled her hair. Daniel materialized behind me, shirtless. The air crackled. Abigail was just showing me that new South Beach listing, he blurted, too loud. Jen's gaze flicked to his bare chest, then my clenched jaw. "Oh," she smiled, all teeth. "The one with the rooftop pool?" "Yes." My voice surprised me, cold and clear. "Great for midnight swims." Or affairs. Silence. Daniel's breath hitched. Jen's smile froze. Rain hissed on the hibiscus. "Abs," Daniel started. "Don't." I stepped back, door half-shield. "Return the trimmer tomorrow, Jen." Closed it on their stunned faces. Leaned against wood grain, vibrating with my heartbeat. Thump, 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 like a judge's gavel. He didn't follow me. Didn't knock. Just muffled voices through the door. "I'll handle it." Then her footsteps retreating. When he finally entered, I was folding laundry. His laundry. Absurd. "It's not what you think," he began, hovering in the doorway. "The Victoria's Secret receipt?" I held up a folded T. "Or the texts. Or the cork from Veuve Clicquot. The brand you called overpriced headache juice last Christmas." He paled. "Jen's divorce? She's fragile." I was just fucking her in our pool house? On my birthday month? The words hung, brutal and bare. He flinched. It meant nothing. The cliché ignited something. I threw his shirt. It fluttered pathetically to the floor. "Get out, Abigail, out." The shout scraped my throat raw. Or, "I email her broker your meaningless lingerie receipt." He left. No bag, no plea. Just the growl of his Audi fading down the street. The house exhaled. Walls sighing, floors settling. I slid down beside the laundry basket, knees to chest. Silence. Not roaring now. Hollow. Vast. A cathedral of betrayal. Rain eased to drizzle. I crawled to the lanai, pressed my forehead to cool glass. Their fence glistened under security lights. Jen's bedroom curtain twitched, a shadow watching. I didn't move, let her see the wreckage. Hours later, my phone lit up. Daniel, staying at the Marriott. We'll talk tomorrow. Please don't do anything rash. I blocked his number. Dawn found me bleaching the kitchen counter, scrubbing where Jen's hand might have brushed. The cork sat nearby, my witness. Miracle, he'd called me, but miracles die when you stop believing. At work, I took the South Beach listing. High-rise with dizzying ocean views. The seller eyed my puffy eyes. Rough night? Renovating my life, I said, and handed him the pen. Solitude after a decade feels less like peace and more like amputation. The house echoed every faucet drip, every axe shutter amplified in Daniel's absence. His toothbrush was gone. I'd thrown it out, along with the half-used bottle of that woody cologne. But his ghost lingered, in the faint indent on his side of the sofa, the garage smell of motor oil and ambition, the empty spot in the knife block where his chef's knife used to be. He took it to Jen's, I realized. A knife we'd bought in Napa Valley, laughing over wine stains on the receipt. Now it would slice avocados in her kitchen. Work became my shield. I threw myself into the South Beach listing staging, virtual tours, barking at the photographer about lighting angles. Make the ocean pop, I ordered, staring at turquoise waters from the 30th floor. All I saw was Jen's pool. My reflection in the condo's window looked gaunt. Hollowed, "You okay, Abigail?" My broker, Margot, slid a coffee onto my desk. "You've been intense." "Just closing a chapter," I said, forcing a smile. The lie tasted familiar. At home, I avoided the lanai. Jen's laughter floated over the fence one evening, bright and careless. I slammed the French doors shut, drew every curtain. Cocooned in darkness, I opened Daniel's whiskey cabinet, the Lagavulin he saved for special occasions. I poured 3 fingers into a juice glass, drank it standing at the kitchen island where he'd kissed my neck while I made dinner. The peat smoke burned my throat, a cleansing fire. Special occasion, surviving Tuesday. His emails piled up, "We need to talk." "This is childish. Jen feels terrible. Can we at least be civil?" "The house payment is due. Did you transfer?" I deleted them unread. Transferred the money. Civility felt like swallowing glass. Then, the orchid died. The white phalaenopsis he'd given me last anniversary, like you, abs. Elegant, strong. Its petals browned at the edges, then dropped silently onto the console table. I hadn't watered it since he left. Neglect as a silent scream. I scooped the fallen blooms into my palm, their velvet softness now papery and dead. Like us. A listing in Coral Gables demanded my presence, a widow selling her late husband's estate. Spanish revival, overgrown bougainvillea, the scent of old books and grief. "He loved this garden," she murmured, tracing a rose bush with gnarled fingers. Planted every camellia himself. Her sorrow was a tangible thing, worn soft at the edges, no longer jagged. I envied that. How long? I asked, the question escaping before I could cage it. 53 years, she smiled, tears glistening. The secret? We chose each other. Every single day. The words gutted me. Daniel chose Jen. Over pancakes. Over miscarriages. Over me. Driving home, I passed the Marriott. Daniel's Audi was in the lot. Parked beside Jen's convertible. Proof, again. Always proof. I pulled over, shaking, not from sadness, from rage white hot and purifying. I texted him, "Get your things." Saturday, 10 a.m. Bring boxes. His reply was instant, finally. "We'll talk then." Saturday dawned brutal. Florida sun hammering the pavement. Daniel arrived alone, jaw tight. Jen's shadow wasn't far. I saw her Prius idling down the block. "Where do you want me to start?" he asked, avoiding my eyes. "Office? Then garage." I handed him a stack of bins. Leave the bedroom for last. Watching him pack was surreal. He moved through our home like a tenant. Books he'd read aloud to me. The framed blueprints of his first skyscraper. The absurd novelty mug from Key West Best Husband Ever, now tossed carelessly into a bin. Each item a brick removed from the wall of us. He paused at our wedding album, lying open on the shelf. Sunlight caught the photo me laughing, veil tangled in orange blossoms, his gaze locked on mine like a promise. Abigail, his voice cracked. I never meant to fuck my neighbor? To buy her lingerie with our money? I crossed my arms. Just pack, Daniel. In the bedroom, he stripped his closet. Suits, ties, golf shoes. The scent of him flooded the room, a physical assault. He pulled a shoebox from the top shelf. Our box. Love letters from dating. Ultrasound photos from the pregnancy that didn't stick. A seashell from Sanibel Island where he'd proposed. Do you want this? He asked, holding it out like a peace offering. I took the box, walked to the kitchen trash. Dropped it in. The thud was final. No, he flinched, finished packing in silence. At the door, he hesitated. I'm sorry, you know. The apology hung, flimsy as tissue paper. Are you? I asked, staring past him to Jen's idling car. Or just sorry you got caught? He had no answer, just loaded the last bin and drove away. No look back. I stood in the empty foyer. Silence again, but different. Lighter. Terrifying. His ghost was gone. Only mine remained. In the kitchen, I poured the last of the Lagavulin. Noticed the dead orchid. On impulse, I watered it. Stupid, but maybe. Empty spaces hold more weight than filled ones. Daniel's absence wasn't just physical. It was the sudden silence of his key in the lock, the phantom weight on the other side of the bed, the way the coffee maker only brewed 1 cup now. I wandered rooms stripped of his presence, the barren wall where his architectural awards hung, the hollow spot in the garage where his toolbox lived. The orchid sat on the windowsill, its remaining leaves limp. Still, I watered it. Stubbornness, maybe, or hope masquerading as habit. Work became my anchor. The South Beach listing sold a record-breaking commission that should have felt like triumph. Margot clinked champagne flutes in the office. To Abigail. Rising from the ashes. The bubbles stung. Ashes were all I felt. I channeled the energy into a new project. A historic Coral Gables villa owned by a tech CEO relocating to Singapore. Sell it furnished, he demanded. Everything must go. Walking through its echoing rooms felt like cataloging another failed dream dusty grand piano, unslept in king bed, silver frames holding stock photo smiles. One muggy Tuesday, I hosted the estate sale. Bargain hunters swarmed like gulls, rifling through linen closets, haggling over crystal vases. I stood near the veranda, nursing lukewarm coffee, watching a woman argue over $5 for a set of bone china teacups. Everything reduced to a price tag. Does the chess set come with the board? A man's voice, calm and low, cut through the haggling buzz. He stood by the mahogany game table, examining the carved ivory pieces. Late 30s, maybe? Sun-streaked brown hair, eyes the color of storm-washed sea glass. Khakis and a faded navy polo boat shoes worn soft. Not the usual bargain vulture. It does, I said, forcing my Realtor polish. 19th century replica. The owner collected. Things that required patience, he finished, lifting the white queen. His thumb traced the crown. Unlike most things today. Something in his observation, quiet, unpretentious, caught me off guard. 100 for the set, he nodded, pulling out his wallet. Fair, no haggling. As I wrote the receipt, he glanced at the framed blueprints on the wall. Daniel's old firm's logo glaringly familiar. You designed this place? Selling it. The words clipped. Just the Realtor. Ah. He didn't push. Paid cash. As he gathered the chess set, his gaze lingered on the dead orchid I'd absent-mindedly placed on a side table. Phalaenopsis. Was, and they end. They're drama queens. Play dead to guilt, trip you. A faint smile touched his eyes. Give it ice cubes once a week. Startles them back to life. Before I could process the absurd advice, a commotion erupted. 2 women arguing over a Art Deco mirror. I hurried over, smoothed it over with a discount. When I looked back, he was gone. Only the chess set's absence marked he'd been there. That night, alone with the silence, I stood before my own orchid. Drama queen. I dropped 3 ice cubes onto its moss. They glistened like diamonds under the kitchen light. Daniel's layer emailed. Formal, cold, petition for dissolution enclosed. Attachments bloomed on my screen. Spreadsheets dividing assets accumulated over a decade. Our savings. The house. Even the pension plan. Each cell felt like a scalpel slicing our history into yours and mine. He wanted the house sold. Equitable. Split. Equitable. A sterile word for evisceration. I drove to Jen's brokerage. Not to confront. To see. Parked down the block. Watched her emerge at lunchtime, Daniel waiting curbside in his Audi. He got out, opened her door. A hand lingered on her lower back. The old gesture. My gesture. She laughed, tossing her hair. Sunlight caught the diamond tennis bracelet on her wrist. New. The rage didn't come. Just a hollow ache, deep and cold. I drove to the beach. Sat on the sand near Matheson Hammock, watching kiteboarders slice through turquoise waves. Salt spray stung my cheeks, or maybe tears. A child nearby built a sandcastle, frantically patting walls against the incoming tide. Futile, beautiful, building fortresses. The voice. I turned. Him, the chess-set man, holding two dripping kayak paddles, hair damp. He nodded toward the child's crumbling castle. Solid strategy until high tide. A startled laugh escaped me, rough, unused. Isn't everything? Most things. He tilted his head, studying me without intrusion. You look like you could use an impractical solution. He held out a paddle. I've got an extra kayak. Distraction included. Caution warred with the sheer need to move, to outrun the ache. I'm Abigail, I said, standing, brushing sand off my slacks. Marcus. His handshake was firm, warm. Distraction specialist. We paddled into the sheltered cove, no demands for my story. Just the rhythmic dip of paddles, the cry of gulls, the sun warming my shoulders. Silence, but not the roaring kind. The peaceful kind. For 20 minutes I didn't think of Daniel, or Jen, or divorce papers. Only the push and pull of water, the glide of the kayak, the way the mangroves whispered secrets to the tide. Ice cubes, Marcus said as we drifted near shore. He nodded toward my hands, blistered from unaccustomed grip. For the orchid, and maybe, for you? He didn't ask for my number, just helped beach the kayak, waved, and walked toward a weathered sailboat anchored offshore. Fair winds, Abigail. Back home, the orchid sat waiting. 3 new ice cubes melted in its pot. And deep in the center, buried beneath brown-tipped leaves, a tiny, defiant spike of green pushed upward. Green, that tiny spear of life piercing the orchid's dead heart, became my compass. I followed its lead. 3 ice cubes every Monday, distilled water Fridays. Drama queen? I'd murmur, tracing the fragile green. Marcus's voice echoed in the ritual, a lifeline tossed across my solitude. The divorce papers sat unsigned on my desk, their legalese a buzzing undercurrent. Daniel's lawyer's emails grew tiercer, clock is ticking, Mrs. D profits in the marrying bidey. Reed. I wasn't ready to stop being Abigail Reed. Not yet. The Coral Gables villa sale closed. The CEO wired his millions to Singapore. I stood in the empty foyer one last time, sunlight pooling on marble where a grand piano once sang. Margot offered champagne. Celebrate. You're unstoppable. I declined. Celebration felt like dancing on a grave mine and the phantom family who'd never lived here. Instead, I drove to Fairchild Tropical Botanic Garden, wandered orchid pavilions until the air grew thick with perfume and ghosts of what could regrow. Fancy meeting you here. Marcus stood by a waterfall orchid cascading white blooms like frozen tears. He held a sketchbook, charcoal smudged on his thumb. No boat shoes today, hiking boots, dirt-caked. Research? I nodded at his sketch, intricate roots tangled like lovers. Inspiration? He closed the book. I restore old sailboats. Sometimes nature's blueprints are better than human ones. He glanced at my hands, bare for once. No wedding band, no Realtor blazer. Orchid update. Alive. Barely. Stubborn. Like its keeper, he didn't smile, but his eyes did. That sea glass warmth. Come see my latest wreck. She's docked at dinner key. You know, I should have said no. Said I had depositions, staging appointments, a life to dismantle. Instead, I followed his jeep through Coconut Grove's banyan-shaded streets. Serendipity was a 1940s catch-peeling teak, rigging frayed like old nerves. Found her rotting in Key West, Marcus said, handing me a sanding block. Sanding's cheap therapy. Try it. We worked in comfortable silence. Palm fronds whispered overhead. Fiberglass dust coated our arms. I scraped rotted wood from the tiller, each stroke stripping away layers of hurt. Daniel hated boats, pointless money pits, he'd sneered. Yet here, elbow deep in decay, I felt anchored. Why sailboats? I asked, sweat trickling down my temple. Marcus paused, Sander humming. They teach you humility. The sea doesn't care about your plans. You adapt or sink. He nodded at my blistered palms from kayaking. Like orchids and divorces. The word hung, stark and unflinching. It's messy. All rebirth is. He wiped his hands on a rag. My ex took the house, the dog, the Picasso print. Left me this. He patted Serendipity's splintered hull. Best trade I ever made. No pity, just kinship in the wreckage. We shared takeout tacos on the dock at Sunset Lime Juice, stinging my knuckles, spicy shrimp warming the hollow places. He spoke of Pacific crossings, of stars so thick they drowned the mast light. I confessed I'd never sailed beyond Biscayne Bay. First lessons free, he offered, when the papers are signed. A promise, a threshold. At home, Daniel's final email waited. Jen's pregnant. We're keeping the baby. Need to expedite the divorce. The words didn't slice. They landed like stones in still water ripples spreading, then gone. I poured a tequila shot, left over from tacos. Toasted the orchid's new leaf. Toasted Marcus's wrecked boat. Toasted Jen's expanding waistline and Daniel's panic. Cheers, assholes. The next morning, I met Margot at a waterfront condo listing. You're glowing, she teased. New man, new perspective. I flung open the balcony doors. Salty wind rushed in, billowing the curtains. Sell this one fast, Margot. I've got a sailboat lesson booked. I signed the papers at noon. Not at my lawyer's oak desk, but at a dockside cafe. Scrawled Abigail Reed one last time, then slid them into the FedEx envelope. The orchid sat beside my latte, its green spear, now a sturdy stem, a bud swelling at its tip. Marcus found me there. He eyed the FedEx envelope, then the orchid. Ready? For what? To learn how to fall. He grinned. Off a boat, preferably. Builds character. We took a sunfish out, tiny, agile, terrifying. He taught me to tack into the wind, the boom swinging like a metronome. Don't fight it, he shouted over the spray. Lean into the tilt. Trust the hull. I leaned. The boat heeled, water rushing over the gunwale. For a heart-stopping second, I teetered, then found balance. Laughter burst from me, raw and real, carried away by the wind. Daniel's face blurred. Jen's laugh faded. There was only sun, salt, and the sheer exhilaration of not capsizing. Back at the dock, soaking wet, Marcus high-fived me. Natural? Liar. I grinned, breathless. Okay, a natural disaster. He tossed me a towel. But disasters clear the ground for better things. The orchid spud had unfurled while we sailed. One perfect white petal, veined with delicate pink. New. Fragile, unbroken. Freedom tasted like salt and unfinished teak. With the divorce finalized, the house no longer felt like a crime scene, just square footage waiting for a for sale sign. I packed memories into labeled boxes, wedding china, honeymoon photos, his sweaters. No rage, just the quiet efficiency of an archaeologist cataloging a dead civilization. The orchid watched from the kitchen sill, 2 blooms now, petals trembling in the act breeze like tiny sails. Marcus became my anchor in the drift. Not a rebound, not a distraction. A quiet harbor. We sanded Serendipity's hull every Saturday, fiberglass dust glittering in our hair. He taught me the language of boats, gunwales, cleats, knots that hold when everything else slips. Why restoration? I asked once, sweat dripping onto the dock wood as we wrestled a rotten plank. He paused, wiping his brow with a varnished forearm. Same reason you stage houses. You see what's buried under the damage. His eyes met mine steady, no subtext. Worth saving. Daniel's shadow flickered occasionally. A certified letter about the house appraisal. Jen's baby registry popping up on a shared email thread. Daniel Puss Jen's little miracle. In bubbly font. I deleted it, but not before noting the due date, December 18th. Our anniversary month. The universe's brutal punchline. I listed my own house. Stunning Mediterranean revival, the brochure declared. Photos airbrushed to erase 10 years of love and betrayal. Open house day brought looky-loos and a familiar Prius idling down the block. Jen, round-bellied behind the wheel, watching strangers traipse through our foyer. She didn't approach. Just stared, hand resting on her bump. A silent declaration. I won. You okay? Marcus materialized beside me, holding 2 iced coffees. He'd come to assess curb appeal, a lie so transparent it warmed me. Peachy. I took the coffee. Oh, just evicting ghosts. He followed my gaze to Jen's car. Want me to tow her? Deadpan. A laugh startled out of me. Tempting, but I'd rather sail. We took Serendipity out before she was seaworthy, just motoring into Biscayne Bay at dusk. The engine sputtered, ailing but alive. Marcus let me steer, his hand hovering near mine on the wheel, not touching. See that channel marker? He pointed to a blinking red light. Aim just left, current pushes you right. Life lesson? I nudged the wheel. Boat lesson. But his smile said otherwise. The bay swallowed the sunset, painting the water bruised purple and gold. Silence settled, comfortable as an old sweater. For the first time, I spoke of Daniel without venom. How he'd proposed on Sanibel Island during a storm, seashell in his shaking hand. How we'd painted the nursery yellow before the miscarriage. How the neighborly borrowing sugar became a landslide. He wasn't a monster, I finished, surprised by my own mercy. Just weak. Marcus didn't offer platitudes. Just listened, his profile etched against the dying light. Weakness isn't an excuse, he said finally. It's just a reason. He tapped the compass. Your turn. Where to, Captain? Away, I whispered. He killed the engine. We drifted, the only sounds the lap of water and distant city hum. Stars pricked the velvet sky. Not Pacific thick, but enough. Marcus pointed to Orion. See his belt? 3 stubborn stars. Survives everything. Light pollution, hurricanes, divorce. Especially divorce. His hand brushed mine as he reached for a winch handle. A spark, brief and electric. We both stilled. The moments stretched, fragile as an orchid bud. Then he cleared his throat. Should head back. Tide's turning. Back at the dock, he secured the lines with practice knots. Halyard hitch, he said, showing me the loop. Holds fast under pressure. Our fingers tangled in the rope. This time, he didn't pull away. Abigail. My phone rang. Margot. Offer on your house. Full ask, no contingencies. Cash buyer. The news should have thrilled me. Instead, I felt untethered. Who? Young surgeon and his wife. Baby on the way. Irony, sharp and bright. Tell them yes. I hung up. Marcus watched me, moonlight silvering his stubble. Good news? The end of an era. I gestured to the boat, the bay, the city skyline. What now? Now, he said, stepping closer. Sandalwood and salt clung to his skin. You rebuild. His thumb traced the rope burn on my palm, a touch deliberate, questioning. Starting with where to live. Boat life's overrated, says the man restoring one. Says the man who knows a realtor. His smile was a slow sunrise. Help me find a waterfront fixer-upper? The orchid would need a sunny window. The sailboat, a dock. And me? I leaned into his touch, the halyard hitch holding fast. Only if I get first dibs on sanding. Selling my own house felt like shedding skin. The closing table was sterile, polished wood, blue-backed documents, the surgeon's wife glowing with impending motherhood. Her hand rested on her bump, mirroring Jen's pose weeks earlier. Life loops, I thought, signing away keys to a decade of memories. The check in my purse felt heavy, cold. Not freedom. Not yet. Marcus helped me move into a temporary waterfront condo, a sleek, soulless box with views of the marina. Downgrade in square footage, he noted, hauling my single orchid inside. Upgrade in horizon lines. He brought tools for hanging art. Or punching walls, your call. His practicality was a balm. Work became my compass. Margot assigned me a high-profile listing. The Mextry Obsidian, a 120-foot super yacht docked at Star Island. Owners divorcing, she winked. Liquidation, fire sale. Make us both rich. The yacht was obscene. Onyx marble floors, gold fixtures, a cinema room with fur-lined seats. It reeked of new money and desperation. The owner, Pavel, a tech bro with hollow eyes, paced the sun deck. She took the jet, the Aspen house, this fucking boat's last. He kicked a submerged sunbed. Sell it fast. I can't stand the memories. Memories. The word echoed. I understood hollow eyes. Staging it felt like arranging a tomb. I tucked away framed photos of Pavel and a blonde woman laughing on glaciers, placed absurdly large seashells on tables, lit vanilla-scented candles to mask the stale champagne smell. Think billionaire bachelor pad, Margot coached. Sell the fantasy. Marcus visited during staging. He whistled low, running a hand over the teak bar. Christ. Enough teak here to rebuild serendipity twice. His expression wasn't envy. It was anthropological curiosity. Who needs 6 jacuzzis? Someone compensating, I muttered, adjusting a $10 telescope pointed uselessly at Miami's skyline. He picked up a solid gold ashtray shaped like a mermaid. This alone could buy my new mast. He set it down like it burned. Different world. My world, I said, sharper than intended. The divide yawned suddenly, his world of salt-crusted tools and hand-sanded wood, mine of leveraged fantasies and moral compromise. He caught my tension. Is it, still? Before I could answer, Pavel burst in, yelling into his phone. Tell her she can't have the goddamn Picasso. It's mine. He saw us, flushed, and stormed toward the master suite. A door slammed. Marcus watched him go. That used to be you, he said quietly, pacing a too big space, radiating hurt. The truth landed like a depth charge. I wasn't that loud. Quieter. Quieter. Scarier. He stepped closer, sawdust from his workshop clinging to his shirt, a stark contrast to the yacht's sterility. This isn't you, Abigail. Selling this, grief disguised as luxury. It's my job. Bullshit. He never swore. The word cracked like a whip. You stage homes. Places meant for life. This, he gestured at the gilded mermaid ashtray, the fur-lined cinema. This is a monument to emptiness. To running away. His disappointment cut deeper than Daniel's betrayal. It pays the bills, I whispered. So does restoring boats. Doesn't mean I'd sell one to a pirate. He picked up his tool bag, jaw tight. Open house is Saturday. I'll be sanding serendipity. If you want something real, he left. The yacht's ack hummed, suddenly arctic. Pavel's muffled sobs drifted from the master suite. I stared at my reflection in the onyx wall blazer sharp. Hair perfect, eyes lost. Sell the fantasy. Saturday dawned. The Obsidian's open house was a circus. Influencers posed on the swim platform. Oligarchs' assistants measured the helipad. Margot beamed, handing out Veuve Clicquot. Champagne, she offered me. Daniel's voice echoed. Overpriced headache juice. I stared at the bubbling gold liquid. Jen's texts. The cork in my jewelry box. The proof. No thanks, I said. I have a boat to sand. Margot gaped as I walked off the gangplank. Marcus wasn't at dinner key. Panic flickered. Had I blown it? Until I spotted serendipity out in the bay, sails full, heeled gracefully against the wind. I borrowed a dinghy, rowed out, my palms blistering again. He didn't help me aboard. Just watched, arms crossed, as I clambered over the gunwale. Change your mind about pirates? Change my mind about captains, I said, breathless. The good ones steer you toward solid ground. Not glitter. A slow smile broke across his face, sun through storm clouds. He tossed me sandpaper. Starboard rail. Start scrubbing. We worked. No champagne, just warm cokes. No gold ashtrays, just the satisfying scratch of paper on teak. The wind carried away the yacht's vanilla stink, replacing it with brine and promise. Pavel fired me, I admitted, sanding a stubborn patch. Smart man. Marcus paused. Not. I'll find other listings. Honest ones. Or, he said, wiping sweat with his forearm, you could help me restore this wreck. Flip her honestly, split the profit. I looked at serendipity, peeling, proud, real. At Marcus sawdust in his hair, integrity in his gaze. The orchid would thrive here, in this salt-bleached honesty. Deal, I said. He extended a grimy hand. Partners? My hand met his. Calloused, warm, unshakable. Partners, not an ending, an embarkation. Restoration is slower than destruction. Sanding Serendipity's hole became our liturgy. Every Saturday dawn, the whine of Marcus's sander harmonizing with seagulls, fiberglass dust like sacred ash in our hair. We worked in tandem, him on the rotten planks near the bow, me on the starboard rail, blisters hardening into calluses. My realtor hands, once skilled at smoothing virtual tours, now learned the grain of teak. "You've got the touch," Marcus noted once, running a palm over my sanded section. Gentle but persistent. The compliment warmed me more than any commission check. We set up a makeshift office in the boatyard's storage shed, a warped table, my laptop beside his hand-drawn schematics. I handled the business he'd ignored, vendor invoices, marine supply orders, a bare-bones website. "Abigail Reed and Associates," he teased, watching me negotiate a discount on rigging line. "Sounds official. Someone's got to keep us from bankruptcy," I shot back, but the shared spreadsheet felt like a covenant. Daniel's world still flickered at the edges. Jen gave birth a boy. Instagram flooded with her curated bliss, tiny fingers gripping Daniel's thumb, blessed captions over sleepless night filters. I muted them, but not before noticing the bracelet diamond tennis, catching the light. Our savings, repurposed. The old rage didn't ignite. Just a dull thud, like a mallet on wet wood. Marcus saw the tension in my shoulders, didn't pry, just handed me a chisel. "Keel needs scraping." Good for venting. I attacked barnacles with grim focus. Each scritch of metal on fiberglass shaved off a shard of bitterness. Daniel rocking his son, Jen's triumphant smile, the nursery we painted yellow. "Easy, tiger," Marcus murmured, prying the chisel from my white-knuckled grip. "Keel's not the enemy." His thumb brushed a fleck of rust from my wrist. The touch lingered, a quiet acknowledgement. We launched Serendipity on a Wednesday. Not finished, but seaworthy. Marcus insisted I christen her. I smashed a cheap Prosecco bottle against the bow, no vouv, I'd insisted. The foam frothed like laughter. "Where to, Captain Reed?" Marcus grinned, hand on the tiller. "Somewhere deep," I said. We motored past Star Island, where the obsidian brooded, still unsold. Margot waved furiously from a client's speedboat, mouthing, "Call me." I just saluted, wind tangling my hair. Freedom tasted of diesel and salt spray. Marcus killed the engine off Key Biscayne. Sail lesson. Final exam. He tossed me the mainsail halyard. "Hoist her." I pulled, muscles burning. Canvas snapped, greedy for wind. Serendipity leaned into the breeze, alive beneath us. Marcus guided my hands on the sheet, adjusting the angle. "Feel how she answers. No engine, just conversation." He was right. The boat spoke through the tiller's vibration. A purr when we caught the sweet spot, a shudder when we pinched. No lies, no hidden texts. Just wind and water and truth. "Your turn," he said, releasing the tiller. Panic spiked. "I'll capsize us." Then, we swim. His calm was infuriating. Anchoring. I took the tiller. Overcorrected. The boom swung wildly. Marcus ducked, laughing. "Less death grip. She's not your ex." The jab loosened something. I eased my hold, let the boat find her balance. Found mine. We anchored in a secluded cove at dusk. Grilled mahi on a portable stove. Ate cross-legged on the deck. Marcus produced 2 mangoes, boatyard bribe from a vendor, and peeled them with his pocket knife, juice dripping down his wrists. "Why boats?" I asked again, sucking mango pulp from my thumb. The question felt different now, not curiosity, but mapping. He watched the horizon. "After my divorce, I sailed to Grenada. Alone. Storm hit near Bermuda waves like skyscrapers. For 3 days, I thought I'd die." He pitted a mango slice. Then the radio crackled, some kid in Newfoundland singing Yellow Submarine off-key. Reminded me we're all just trying to stay afloat. Helping this old girl? He patted Serendipity's rail. It's penance and hope. Fireflies blinked in the mangroves. I thought of Daniel, of how pain had shrunk him into Jen's orbit, how mine had expanded, here in the quiet company of a man who'd faced his own abyss. "Penance accepted," I said softly. "Now show me Granada on the charts." He unrolled a map, our shoulders brushing. His finger traced the Caribbean calloused, salt roughened. Here's the good rum. Here's the reef we dive, if you sign on as first mate. His gaze held mine, no pressure, just an open horizon. The moment hung, vast and still. Not an ending. A beginning whispered in rust and sea spray. I touched the new teak rail I'd sanded smooth. Only if I get to name the next boat. His smile was the compass I'd needed all along. Deal. Change whispers before it roars. The shed became our war room. Marcus's hand sketched hull diagrams pinned beside my market analysis for serendipity. Classic catch. Restored W-Fi's integrity, our website declared. Inquiries trickled in. A documentary filmmaker seeking authenticity. A retired teacher dreaming of coastal cruising. See? Marcus nudged me as we read an offer over coffee brewed on a hot plate. People crave real. Margot's calls grew frantic. The Saudi prince is back. Wants the obsidian full ask. Abigail, this is life-changing. Her voice crackled through the shed's tinny speakerphone. Outside, rain drummed on the corrugated roof, smelling of wet earth and diesel. Marcus sanded a belaying pin. Rhythm steady. Life-changing, he echoed quietly, not looking up. What life? The question hung. I pictured Pavel's hollow eyes, the fur-lined cinema, the champagne flutes like crystal tombstones. I'll call him back, I told Margot, hanging up. You don't have to, Marcus said. The boat fund's healthy, not about money. I traced a knot in the plywood table, a flaw left unsanded. It's about who I'm becoming, he stopped sanding. And who's that? Someone who doesn't sell emptiness. The next morning, I met Prince Khalid at the Obsidian. He strode the deck in white linen, trailing aides who photographed gold faucets. It lacks soul, he announced, wrinkling his nose at the onyx bar. It lacks nothing, Margot chirped, shooting me a fix this glare. Khalid turned to me. Here is enough retin now, munded body in others. You restored a sailboat, yes? Small, old. His eyes held unexpected sharpness. Why? Because broken things, I said, choosing words like stepping stones, can be remade truthfully. Not just covered in gold. He studied me, really studied, then waved a dismissive hand at the jacuzzi. This is cowardice. Hiding. A pause. Show me your sailboat. Your Highness, Margot sputtered. Kinney. Now, he commanded. We motored to Dinner Key in his absurdly large tender. Marcus was waist-deep in Serendipity's bilge, wrestling a stubborn pump, grease smearing his cheek. He blinked as Khalid's entourage descended. This is real? Khalid asked, running a manicured finger over the newly varnished cap rail. Real work, Marcus corrected, wiping his hands. Real wood, real mistakes. He pointed to a repaired plank, slightly mismatched grain. That one fought me. Khalid crouched, touched the seam. Imperfections tell the story. He straightened, addressed me. Sell me this. Marcus stiffened. She's not for sale. Everything's for sale, Khalid countered. Not Serendipity, I said, the name solid on my tongue. But we'll restore one for you, honestly. No gold mermaids. Silence. Margot looked ready to faint. Then Khalid laughed. A rich, surprised sound. Deal. Build me something that feels. He tossed Marcus a business card. Start with teak, not titanium. As his tender roared away, Marcus exhaled. You just sold a ghost boat. We just got our future, I corrected. That night, we celebrated on Serendipity's deck takeout pizza, cheap beer, the marina lights shimmering on black water. Marcus's phone buzzed, Daniel's name flashing. He called the boatyard, Marcus said, frowning. Says it's urgent. Ignore it, I said, but my chest tightened. Not my call. He handed me the phone. Daniel's voice was frayed wire. Abigail? Jen's gone. Took the baby, left a note, can't do this, and the bracelet. A ragged breath. She emptied the accounts. The news landed not with schadenfreude, but a strange, heavy pity. I'm sorry, Daniel. Are you? Bitterness bled through. You won. Happy? I watched Marcus scrape cheese off the pizza box, a small domestic gesture. Happiness isn't a contest, I said softly. Get a lawyer, protect your son. I don't know how. His voice cracked. The lost boy I'd loved once. You always handled things. Not anymore. The finality was gentle. Goodbye, Daniel. I hung up. The night breathed, crickets, water lapping, Marcus's quiet presence. Okay, he asked. I nodded, handing back the phone. Just ghosts. He opened his palm. On it lay a tiny, perfect seashell, pink and white, like the one Daniel gave me on Sanibel. Found it in the bilge pump strainer, he said. Old story. New boat. I took it. Not a weight. Just a shell. Should we throw it back? Your choice. I placed it on the cap rail. Let the tide decide. He moved closer, his shoulder warm against mine. Not pushing. Just anchoring. Khalid's project, it'll mean travel. Shipyards in Maine, maybe Bali for teak, I'll pack light, I said. Orchids portable, his laugh was a low rumble. Priorities. The shell glimmered under the dock light. Tomorrow, the tide might take it. Or it might stay, a small, hard witness to how far the current had carried me. Marcus's hand found mine, calluses rough against my knuckles. No grand declaration. Just shared warmth against the night. Bailey, I murmured, leaning into him. I hear they have good ice cubes. Maine's coastline wasn't Florida's languid kiss, it was a bracing slap. Cold salt air needled my cheeks as Marcus and I stood on the windswept dock of the Rockland shipyard. Before us, Hull TS-1 of Khalid Classics lay skeletal in its cradle oak ribs exposed like the bones of some sea creature. Serendipity, tethered nearby, looked suddenly small. Home sweet shipyard, Marcus grinned, breath fogging. He handed me a hard hat-stamped project manager. Ready to build something honest? Honesty. It permeated the raw wood, the coiled rope smelling of pine tar, the grizzled shipwrights who sized me up with skeptical eyes. Realtor, eh? Grunted Boyd, foreman, thumbing blueprints. What do you know about Deidre's angles? Enough to hire you, I shot back, tapping his schematic. This frame needs sistering before planking. Rotted. His bushy eyebrows lifted. Marcus hid a smile. Work consumed us. Dawn till dusk in the drafty loft, tracing curves on lofting paper, arguing timber grades over lukewarm coffee. Khalid wanted tradition with hidden tech solar panels, disguised as deck prisms, a whisper-quiet hybrid engine. Invisible integrity, Marcus called it. Daniel surfaced unexpectedly. A call while I was knee-deep in epoxy fumes. He won't stop crying abs. The pediatrician says colic, but... His voice cracked, a sound I'd never heard, not even during our miscarriage. What if Jen was right? What if I'm broken at this? The baby's wails shredded the static. My throat tightened. Not for Daniel, for the tiny human caught in the wreckage. Skin-to-skin contact, I said, recalling a long-ago birthing class. Walk him, sing, even off-key. A pause. And hire a night nurse, Daniel. You can't pour from an empty cup. Always practical, he whispered, exhausted. Thank you. I hung up, the ghost of motherhood clinging. Marcus found me staring at a half-carved figurehead, a mermaid with Abigail's eyes, the shipwright's whimsy. You okay? Just parenting advice. From the childless ex-wife. Bitter irony. He wiped resin from his knuckles. Broken people fix things. That's why we're here. He nodded at the emerging hull. That's why Khalid hired us. Winter clamped down. Snow piled against the boathouse. We moved into a rented cottage, twin beds, shared kitchen, the orchid thriving on a frost-fringed windowsill. Nights were blueprints by firelight, takeout chowder, Marcus's sea shanties sung terribly. One blizzard-locked evening, he traced the lofting lines of the keel. This curve, it's everything. Too flat, she'll slam waves. Too steep, she'll wallow, his finger hovered. Like people. Find the balance, says the man who lives. Tilted, I teased, gesturing at serendipity outside, healed in her winter birth. Tilted's alive, he countered. His gaze met mine over the flickering lantern. The air thickened, wood smoke, wet wool, something unspoken crackling like the fire. He reached across the table, brushed a wood curl from my sleeve. His hand lingered. Abigail, a log collapsed in the hearth. Sparks flew. We jerked apart. I'll get more wood, he muttered, grabbing his coat. The almost kiss hung in the silence. Not regret, not yet. Just timing. Spring thaw brought Kali for inspection. He arrived via seaplane, ducking into the boathouse in cashmere and bean boots. Marcus guided him through the skeleton, explaining scarf joints, bronze fastenings, the heartwood's grain. Khalid touched a freshly planed plank, inhaled the cedar scent. No gold leaf? He teased. Strength doesn't need glitter, Marcus said. Khalid turned to me. Don't. And the soul? You promised that too. I handed him the mermaid figurehead, now carved, sanded, ready for paint. Meet Alia, I said. Arabic for sky, because the best journeys lift you. He traced her flowing hair, the determined set of her jaw. She has your eyes, Abigail, a rare, genuine smile. Perfect. After he left, Marcus and I walked the shore. Pebbles crunched underfoot. Ice still clung to the shady coves. Alia, he mused, not serendipity? Serendipity found me broken, I said. Alia, I said. Aliyah, she's built to fly. He stopped, facing me. Wind whipped his hair. And us? Still partners? Always, I said. Good. He cupped my cold cheek, rough palm, tender pressure. Because I'm done tilting around it, this time no fire collapsed. His lips met mine, salt cold at first, then warming. A kiss like a safe harbor found after a long tack. Solid, true. The wood smoke and sea scent of him enveloped me, and the frozen knot inside, the one Daniel's betrayal, the lost baby, the years of perfect lies had tied finally, gently, began to thaw. Back at the cottage, the orchid had bloomed, a single defiant white flower glowing against the dark window. Marcus touched its petal. Drama queen, he murmured, pulling me close. Learned from the best, I whispered into his shoulder. Outside, the first star pierced the twilight. North Star, I realized, steady, unmoving, a point to sail home by. Building Alia felt like writing a love letter to the sea. Oak planks steamed and bent under Boyd's calloused hands, taking shape against her ribs like muscle over bone. The shipyard echoed with the song of creation, rasps scraping, mallet thudding, Marcus's low hum as he fitted copper rivets. Our almost kiss on the shore hung between us. A charged, tender thing acknowledged in shared thermoses of coffee, fingers brushing over blueprints, the way his hand lingered at the small of my back when I balanced on scaffolding. Starboard, sheer lines fighting us. Boyd grunted one raw April morning, squinting at the curve. Wants to hog. Marcus ran a hand along the stubborn plank. Clamp it, steam it longer. She'll yield. He caught my eye. Stubborn wood for a stubborn soul, says the man talking to timber, I retorted, but warmth bloomed beneath my ribs. Khalid's updates were brief, demanding. Progress photos, bi-weekly. Ensured the mermaid's eyes matched the sample. I'd sent a close-up of the figurehead, Alia's gaze steady, carved teak lashes framing eyes the color of storm-tossed kelp. My eyes, Boyd insisted. Gives her spirit, he'd argued, chisel in hand. Marcus hadn't objected. Daniel's calls grew sporadic, frayed. The night nurse quit. Hey, he screams from sunset till dawn. His voice was a frayed rope about to snap. I don't remember it being this hard with you. With you hung, a ghost of our lost child, the grief we drowned in silence. It wasn't, I said softly, watching Marcus cradle a freshly shaped block of locust for the keel. Because we never got this far. A choked sob crackled down the line. I'm drowning, Abs. Swim, I whispered, the word Marcus had thrown me months ago. Or sink. But don't call me your lifeguard. I hung up, the phantom weight of that tiny, screaming life settling on my chest. Marcus found me in the loft, tracing the lines of Alia's hull on vellum. He's breaking, I said, not looking up. He broke you first. Marcus leaned against the drafting table. Doesn't mean you owe him pieces. It's the baby I pity, then pity him. His hand covered mine, stilling the trembling pencil. But don't carry him, he was right. Yet that night, researching colic remedies, I emailed Daniel a list, gripe water brands, white noise apps, a baby-wearing sling tutorial. No return address, no signature. Letting go, I was learning, wasn't the same as closing the door. She's ready for paint, Boyd announced one May morning. Alia's bare hull gleamed oak and locust and cedar, seams caulked tight with cotton and oakum. We gathered shipwrights, apprentices, Marcus and I as the lead painter dipped his brush into pure white marine enamel. The first stroke along the waterline was a benediction. Your turn, Marcus nudged me, holding out a smaller brush. The eyes. Trembling, I dabbed the brush into the tiny pot of kelp green paint Boyd had mixed, stepped onto the scaffold. Alia's face tilted skyward, serene, expectant. I touched the brush to her wooden iris. The paint flowed, filling the carved hollow with depth, life. My eyes looking back but wiser. Unbroken, fitting, Marcus murmured beside me. Narcissistic, I corrected, breathless. Nah, just honest, his shoulder pressed against mine. She's your vision. Later, sanding Serendipity's bright work under the weak Maine sun, he broached the unspoken. Khalid wants Alia launched in Newport. Black tie gala, his invisible integrities on display for billionaires. I grimaced. Gold ashtrays in disguise. Our names on her, he said quietly. Our work. Might be strategic, selling out, building bridges. He caught my skeptical look. 2 more Elias. More honest boats. We need capital, not just Khalid's whims. The pragmatism stung. Serendipity had been pure passion. Alia was becoming commerce. Black tie? Me? You clean up terrifyingly well, he grinned. Then sobered. We go as partners. Build the dream, then sail away after, wherever the next wreck is. His gaze held the old promise of horizons. But first, Newport. I imagined the gala glittering lies, Khalid's curated crowd. Then I saw Alia, proud and true, cutting through their pretense. A statement? Our statement. Okay, I said, but I'm wearing flats. And we leave early. His laugh was the sound of rigging in a fresh breeze. Deal. That night, in the cottage's lamplight, he unrolled a chart of the Caribbean. After Newport, he traced a line south. Warm water, bad rum. A schooner rotting in Antigua. I leaned over his shoulder, the scent of turpentine and salt on his skin. Serendipity needs a refit after Antigua. She's tough. So am I. My hand covered his on the chart. His fingers laced through mine anchor and sail. Outside, the painted eyes of Alia watched through the boathouse window, seeing not just the sea ahead, but the shore we'd left behind. Newport smelled of old money and new champagne. Alia floated in the harbor, spotlit against the inky water, a vision of restrained elegance among the gleaming mega-yachts. Her white hull glowed, teak decks polished to honey, Alia's figurehead gazing serenely past the gawking crowd. Inside the tented pier, crystal clinked and designer gowns whispered. Khalid held court in ivory linen, gesturing grandly. Handcrafted integrity. Marcus fidgeted in his rented tuxedo, collar strangling his sunburned neck. Feel like a zoo exhibit, he muttered, nodding at guests photographing his calloused hands. The authenticity exhibit, I corrected, smoothing my simple navy sheath. My only armor. Margot materialized, air kissing my cheek. Darling, you're trending. Boat Bay. She flashed her phone, a paparazzi shot of Marcus adjusting my pearl necklace on the red carpet, his knuckles scraped from last-minute engine tweaks. Charming, Marcus deadpanned. Can we sink now? Not before Khalid's speech, I sighed, spotting Daniel across the tent. He stood near the raw bar, looking diminished in an ill-fitting suit, holding a sleeping baby against his shoulder. Jen's diamond bracelet was gone. His eyes met mine, a raw plea. Don't, Marcus warned softly, reading my tension. He's drowning Marcus, his ocean. Khalid tapped the mic. To craftsmanship, to Alia. Glasses lifted. Daniel shifted the baby, his gaze locked on me. I slipped away during the applause. Daniel intercepted me near a towering ice sculpture, a mermaid melting into oblivion. Abs, his voice rasped. He's colicky. Won't stop unless, skin to skin. I told you. I tried. He jostled the whimpering bundle. He needs gentleness, like you had. The old wound throbbed, the nursery we'd painted, the tiny socks tucked away. I'm not his mother, Daniel, but you understand. Desperation edged his whisper. Jen's in Bali with some surfer. Sent postcards. A hollow laugh. Finding myself, the baby fussed, rooting against Daniel's lapel. Instinctively, I reached out, adjusting the blanket. My finger brushed the infant's petal-soft cheek. Daniel caught my wrist. Help me, just for tonight. He calms for you. I saw it when you... No. I pulled back, the word sharp as a chisel strike. Your son deserves your whole heart. not a stand-in. I don't have a whole heart anymore. Then find the pieces. I stepped away, leaving him trembling by the weeping mermaid. Marcus waited at Alia's gangway, 2 flutes of champagne in hand. Told Khalid we're checking the bilge pumps. He handed me a glass. Liar. I downed the champagne, dry, expensive, tasteless. Daniel's shattered. So was serendipity when I found her. Marcus set his untouched glass on a cleat. Broken isn't hopeless. Just waiting for the right hands. He offered his arm. Ditch this circus? We motored Alia out of the harbor, leaving the glittering pretense behind. Newport's lights dwindled to fairy dust. Marcus killed the engine. Silence. True silence. The kind that breathes. Better? He loosened his bow tie. Infinitely. I kicked off my heels, the teak cool underfoot. He disappeared below, emerging with a greasy paper bag. Boatyard special. He unwrapped 2 lobster rolls, dripping butter. Eat. Before Khalid's caviar police track us. We ate cross-legged on the foredeck, grease shining on our chins, laughter echoing over the water. Stars multiplied, undimmed by city glare. Marcus pointed, Orion's clearer here. Less competition. Like us, I licked butter off my thumb. Smaller pond, brighter stars. He grew quiet. That schooner in Antigua, I bought her today. Wire transfer before the gala. My breath hitched. You what? Serendipity needs a sister. He pulled a crumpled invoice from his pocket, S's Wanderlust, 65 Theft, 1923. Rotting in Nelson's dockyard. Needs everything. His eyes held the old challenge. Partners. The future unfurled, sun-scorched docks, unfamiliar stars, the ache of good wood yielding to rebirth. No gilded cages, just horizons. Always, I whispered. He leaned in. This kiss tasted of salt and butter and promise, no tuxedos between us. Olia rocked gently, cradling us in the vast, star-strewn dark. To invisible integrity, I murmured against his lips. And visible grease stains, he laughed, wiping butter onto his rented trousers. In the distance, Newport still glittered, a gaudy diorama of everything we'd escaped. But here, on a hand-built boat smelling of lobster and hope, the only light we needed was the steady pulse of Alia's navigation lamps, guiding us toward open water. Antigua hit like a warm, rum-soaked embrace. Sunlight bleached the sky white, bouncing off turquoise water so vivid it hurt the eyes. Nelson's dockyard buzzed, not with Newport's polished frenzy, but with the rhythmic clang of rigging, Creole chatter, and the salty tang of fish frying nearby. Serendipity bobbed beside weathered stone docks, looking suddenly small and travel-worn. Marcus pointed past rusted cranes and sun-bleached hulls. There she is, Wanderlust. She wasn't a boat. She was a ghost. A 65-foot schooner slumped in her cradle, her once proud lines sagging under peeling blue paint. Rot festered along her waterline. Masts, stripped bare, reached skyward like skeletal arms. Seagulls perched on her broken stern rail, squawking derisively. She's perfect, Marcus breathed, eyes alight with the fervor of a true believer. She's a demolition project, I corrected, shielding my eyes. The sheer scale of decay was daunting. Fines snaked through shattered portholes. The deck was a patchwork of missing planks revealing shadowy, cobweb depths below. Where do we even start? Same as serendipity, he grinned, slinging a toolkit over his shoulder. One rotten plank at a time, he strode toward the dockmaster's office, already negotiating in rapid-fire patois. The dockmaster, Eli, skin like mahogany, eyes crinkled from decades of squinting at horizons, sized me up. Yachting lady? He rumbled, skepticism thick. Boat restoring partner, I countered, offering a handshake gritty with travel dust. His calloused palms swallowed mine. A slow smile spread. Wanderlust been waiting for stubborn hands, he declared. She bite back, though. Watch for the keel bolts. Salt got 'em good. Our yard was a patch of packed dirt under a sprawling tamarind tree. We set up camp. A tarp for shade, Serendipity's old camp stove, and the orchid placed reverently on an upturned crate. Home, Marcus announced, cracking open a warm Banks beer. Work was brutal. Antiguan's sun hammered down, turning the steel cradle into an oven. We attacked the deck first, crowbars prying up ruined teak, the stench of dry rot and decades of trapped seawater rising in a sour cloud. Blisters bloomed beneath my gloves. Sweat stung my eyes, mixing with grime and fiberglass dust. Found the problem, Marcus called from the bowels of the main salon later. He emerged, face smeared black, holding a corroded copper pipe. Freshwater system. Looks like it burst, maybe 20 years ago. Started the rot feast. I passed him a water jug. Feast is right. Termites are throwing block parties down there. Partners in demolition, he chuckled, gulping water. His t-shirt clung, sweat darkened. The sight wasn't unpleasant, and in her train, Beau with a down tum, focused. Real. Eli brought lunch, fiery pepper pot stew and dense sweet bread. We ate under the tamarind, grease on our chins, trading horror stories from the hole. Port side frames soft as butter, Marcus reported. Galley soles non-existent. Fell through. I showed him a fresh scrape on my elbow. Battle scars. His thumb brushed the edge of the scrape, a brief electric contact. Wear 'em proud. Afternoon brought a sudden squall. Rain sluiced down, turning our dirt patch to red mud, drumming a frantic rhythm on the tarp. We huddled under it, shoulders touching, watching Wanderlust weep rust-colored streaks down her sides. Think she's crying? I asked, the rumble of thunder vibrating through the cradle. Nah, Marcus said, wiping rain from his brow. Just shedding her old skin, making room for the new. He pulled a worn chart from his waterproof pouch. While we're trapped, where should serendipity take us Sunday? Barbuda? Montserrat? His knee pressed against mine under the tarp. Rain-soaked heat, shared breath. The unspoken tension from Newport simmered, amplified by the storm's closeness. Somewhere quiet, I murmured, tracing the ragged coastline. With good snorkeling. See what's beneath the surface. His gaze held mine. Always more than meets the eye. The rain eased to a drizzle, leaving the air thick and steam rising from the hot ground. We emerged into the dripping world. Marcus surveyed the muddy chaos, the daunting hulk of Wanderlust. Overwhelmed? I looked at the orchid, droplets beating on its resilient leaves. At serendipity, sturdy and familiar. At Marcus, mud splattered and utterly certain. Nope, I lied, then amended. Okay, terrified. But excited terrified. He handed me a crowbar. Same thing, really. Let's evict some termites. As dusk painted the sky mango and violet, we stood back, surveying the carnage. Piles of rotten timber. Buckets of corroded fastenings. Wanderlust looked worse, but lighter. Stripped bare. Ready. Progress? I asked, muscles screaming. Marcus slung an arm around my muddy shoulders, a gesture easy and new. Found the rot. That's step one. He nodded towards Eli's shack, where lantern light glowed. Rum's on me. Celebrate the mess. Walking back, the warm weight of his arm felt like an anchor finally set in good holding ground. The orchid, left under the tamarind, seemed to perk up in the twilight. Drama queen, I thought fondly. You're not the only one who knows how to rebuild. Antiguan mornings arrived like a hammer blow. Sun already white-hot by 6 a.m., cicadas screaming in the coconut palms. We fell into a rhythm. Up with the frigate birds, coffee boiled on Serendipity's tiny stove, then the march to Wanderlust's rotting carcass. Progress was measured in buckets of rust and splinters. Found treasure. Marcus called out one sweltering Tuesday, voice muffled from the dank hold. I scrambled down the makeshift ladder, flashlight beam cutting through dust motes. He knelt in the sludge, wiping grime from a circular shape buried under collapsed cabinetry. Buried captain's wheel. It was magnificent solid teak spokes, brass hub crusted with verdigris. 8 feet across, meant for hands that commanded oceans, not realtors staging condos. Marcus's eyes glowed in the dim light. See the compass rose inlay. Hand cut. He traced a silt-clogged groove. Salvageable? Like us? I teased, heaving aside a rotten timber. Exactly like us. His grin was a slash of white in the gloom. Just need stripping, patience, and a miracle, I finished. But hope fluttered fragile as the orchid's new bloom back at camp. We wrestled the wheel onto the deck. Eli materialized, whistling low. Wanderlust's heart, he declared, thumping the brass hub. Old Captain Briggs went down with her in 67. Hurricane Greta. Wheel washed ashore next day. Folks said it wept salt water. He spat tobacco. Bad juju. You sure? Marcus ran a hand over the spokes. Juju's just history waiting for a rewrite. Eli shrugged. Suit yourself. More rot starboard bow soft as cake. The discovery fueled us. We attacked the starboard frame. Marcus wielding the chainsaw, me hauling away putrid timber. Sweat plastered my tank top, salt crusted my temples. At noon, crouched under the hull's shadow sharing a warm tuna wrap, Marcus's gaze snagged on my collarbone. Sunburns coming. His thumb brushed the tender skin, a deliberate, lingering stroke that had nothing to do with first aid. I froze. The air crackled, thick with resin and something unspoken. Distracting the labor? Motivating it, he countered, voice rough. He didn't pull back. Flashback, Daniel's touch. Those final months, dutiful, distracted, always glancing toward Jen's yard. This was different. Undivided. Terrifying. A plank gave way beneath me. Not rot, my boot slipped on sawdust. I stumbled, grabbing Marcus's arm. He caught me, hauling me against him. Chest to chest, hearts hammering twin rhythms through sweat-damp cotton. His breath hitched. The chainsaw lay forgotten. Abigail! Eli's shout shattered the moment. Trouble port side, beams buckling, we sprang apart. The port side frame sagged inward, groaning under its own decay. Shoring, now. Marcus barked, all business. But his hand squeezed mine, quick, fierce, before he lunged for the jacks. We worked frantic, bracing the failing timber until sunset. Crisis averted, but the near collapse left us jittery. Under the tamarind tree, we sipped rum, watching Wanderlust's silhouette bleed into dusk. Close call, I murmured, nursing a splinter in my palm. Part of the dance, Marcus said, but his knuckles were white on the glass. With boats, with people, he nodded toward the salvaged wheel, propped against a crate. That moment today, before Eli, I felt it. Good. He set down his rum. Because I'm done pretending I want to just sand boats with you. The admission hung bold as the first star piercing the violet sky. What do you want? This, he gestured to the chaotic yard, serendipity bobbing patiently, the orchid glowing pale under the lantern. The work, the mess, the sunburns. You! His eyes locked on mine. All of it, partners in every damn sense. No grand speech. No diamond bracelet. Just Marcus sawdust in his hair, honesty in his gaze. Daniel's voice echoed faintly. Jen's fragile, it meant nothing. Lies, gauzy and cheap. This was solid teak. I reached across the crate. Not for his hand, for his face. Calloused palm against stubbled jaw. His breath caught. Even the termites, especially the termites, he turned his head, pressing a kiss into my palm. A promise, a claiming. Later, under the tamarind's whispering leaves, we rewrote Eli's juju. His kiss wasn't tentative like Newport's. It was deep, hungry rum and salt, and years of waiting. My back met rough bark, his hand spanned my waist, pulling me closer. No audience, no ghosts, just the sigh of the harbor, the distant clang of halyards, and the solid, thrilling reality of Marcus. Partners, I breathed against his mouth. Always, he vowed, fingers tangling in my hair. High above, frigate birds circled, black against the moonlit sky. Scavengers, survivors, like us. Love, in a boatyard, isn't whispered over candlelight. It's sweat mingling on shared timber, calloused hands passing a chisel, the quiet certainty of knowing exactly where the other is without looking. After the tamarind tree, Marcus and I didn't talk about it. We simply were. He'd rest his palm on the small of my back as I steadied a plank. I'd wipe sweat from his temple with my bandana. Eli watched us with knowing eyes, spitting tobacco into the red dirt. "'Bout time," he'd grunt, handing Marcus a heavier mallet. The salvaged wheel became our shared obsession. We set up a restoration station under the tamarind, chemical baths to dissolve decades of grime, fine sandpaper for the teak spokes, jeweler's tools for the brass compass rose. Marcus's large, scarred hands worked with surprising delicacy on the intricate inlay. "Captain Briggs wept salt water, huh?" I murmured one afternoon, polishing a brass spoke until it gleamed like liquid sun. "Maybe he wept for leaving her behind," Marcus said, not looking up from the delicate rose petals he was teasing free of corrosion. "Some loves are anchors. Others, sails." His knee bumped mine under the makeshift table. Wanderlust demanded brutality. We attacked her port side frame, chainsaw screaming through rotten oak, crowbars prying loose ribs eaten by termites. The dust was a choking, sweet, sour cloud. "Hold," Marcus yelled, bracing a jack beneath a sagging beam. I slammed a fresh timber support into place, my muscles burning. The hull groaned, protesting the intrusion. For a heart-stopping second, the entire cradle seemed to sway. Then stillness. Marcus met my eyes across the dusty chasm. Solid. Relief tasted like grit. He climbed down, face streaked with grime, and pulled me into a hard, quick embrace. No words, just the hammering of his heart against mine, the shared triumph over decay. Eli whistled sharply from below. Less huggin', more shorin'. Starboard's jealous. We laughed, breathless, and broke apart. But the ghost of his grip lingered like sun warmth on my skin. Daniel called that evening. Static crackled on the line, a bad connection or his frayed nerves. He smiled today, he blurted, voice raw, a real smile. Not gas, a shaky breath. I sang Yellow Submarine, off-key. Like that kid Marcus heard. The mention of Marcus's storm story, shared only under Antiguan stars, startled me. It worked. He stopped crying. 5 minutes. Daniel's laugh was watery. Felt like hope. Silence stretched, filled only by the distant lap of harbor waves against serendipity. I'm glad, Daniel, and I was. Not for him, but for the tiny human learning. The world wasn't only hunger and ache. Marcus, he's good, for you? The question was tentative, stripped of bitterness. I watched Marcus across the camp, silhouetted against the setting sun as he carefully lowered the restored wheel onto fresh sawhorses. His focus was absolute, reverent. Yes, I said simply. He's solid ground. Good. A pause. We're moving, back to Ohio. Near my sister. Fresh start. I hope it's peaceful, Daniel. Me too. Goodbye, Abigail. The call ended. Not an ending, but a release. I placed the phone down, the orchid's single white bloom glowing in the twilight beside it. Marcus approached, wiping linseed oil from his hands. Ghosts laid to rest? Just set adrift, I said, leaning into his side. He smelled of turpentine and salt and honest sweat. Best place for him. He wrapped an arm around my shoulders, pulling me close. His gaze fell on the wheel. She's ready. Under the tamarin's canopy, the brass compass rose gleamed with captured firelight. The teak spokes, stripped and oiled, felt warm and vital under my fingertips. Marcus's hand covered mine on the smooth hub. Together, we turned the massive wheel. It moved silently, effortlessly, as if eager for the sea after decades of darkness. "Where's she pointing?" I whispered. Marcus traced the compass needle, not north, but northwest. "Home," he said, "eventually, after Barbados. Maybe Grenada." His thumb stroked the back of my hand. "With us." Eli materialized with 3 tin cups of potent dark rum. For the lady, he nodded to the wheel. "And her new captains." He raised his cup. "May your juju be stronger than Briggs's tears." We drank. The rum burned, sweet and smoky. Marcus's eyes held mine over the rim of his cup, a silent promise in their sea glass steps. Not just for wanderlust, for us. Later, tangled in the narrow bunk aboard Serendipity, harbor sounds a lullaby through the open hatch. Marcus traced the sunburn on my shoulder. "Ohio?" he murmured against my skin. "Adrift," I repeated, turning to face him. Moonlight caught the silver in his stubble, the fierce tenderness in his gaze. "We're anchored right here." His kiss tasted of rum and forever. Outside, the salvaged wheel stood sentinel under the Antiguan moon, its polished brass rose pointing steadfastly toward open water and the countless horizons waiting beyond. Rebuilding a schooner teaches you patience. Rebuilding a life teaches you surrender. Wanderlust's skeleton stood bare under the Antiguan sun, new oak ribs replacing rotted ones, the air thick with the scent of sawdust and marine epoxy. Marcus and I moved like synchronized tide cycles, him shaping timber with a draw knife, me mixing thickened glue, our rhythm wordless. Eli called it yard voodoo, 2 bodies sharing one stubborn purpose. The salvaged wheel watched from its pride of place under the tamarind tree. Captain Briggs's ghost felt less like weeping saltwater now, more like a wry spectator. Think he approves? I asked Marcus, passing him a clamp. Approves? He's ecstatic, Marcus grunted, hefting a rib into position. Finally getting the care he denied her. His shoulder brushed mine, leaving a streak of sweat on my arm. A month since the tamarind tree, and every accidental touch still sparked. A low, constant hum beneath the work. News arrived via Margot's frantic email. Khalid's furious. Alia's teak deck is cupping in Newport humidity. Says it's unacceptable craftsmanship. Demands he fly back now. I showed Marcus. He wiped resin-coated hands on his shorts, frowning. Teak moves. He knew that. He knew invisible integrity, not wood-grain reality, I sighed. I'll handle it. We'll handle it, he corrected, pulling out his satellite phone. Eli, borrow your nephew's skiff? Need to video call a prince. We motored out to where the water deepened to sapphire. Marcus held the phone steady as I treaded water, pointing the lens at Serendipity's deck, sun-bleached, slightly warped, beautiful. See those lines, Khalid? I panned over the gentle ridges. That's teak breathing. Proof it's alive. Alia's deck isn't defective, it's authentic. Sand it lightly, oil it, let it tell its story. Khalid's face filled the screen, petulant, then pensive. And the guests who complain? Tell them they're walking on history, Marcus chimed in from the skiff. Or buy 'em gold flip-flops. A beat. Then Khalid's laugh burst through the speaker sharp, surprised. Fine. But next time, warn me about your planks having moods. The screen went dark. Crisis averted with saltwater and sarcasm, Marcus grinned, hauling me back into the skiff. His hands lingered at my waist. Deserve a reward. Lobster roll? Better. He nudged the tiller toward a crescent of white sand. Deserted beach, no termites. Cocoa Beach was a postcard. Palms leaning over powdery sand, water so clear the stingrays below looked like shadows on turquoise glass. We swam, the ocean rinsing away yard grit and Khalid's drama. Floating on my back, I watched Marcus dive, a sleek arc disappearing into the blue, surfacing with a conch shell. For the orchid, he said, placing it in my palm. Sunlight caught the spiral's pearly heart. She's spoiled, I murmured, tracing the smooth lip. Learned from me, his smile was open, easy. We waded ashore, collapsed under a sea grape tree. Silence settled. Not empty, but full of wave sigh and rustling leaves. Daniel emailed, I said, watching a hermit crab explore the conch. Sent a picture, the baby Henry sitting up. Fat cheeks, looks, happy. Marcus propped himself on an elbow. You okay? Relieved, I realized. Like passing a lighthouse in a storm. You know land's there, even if it's not yours. I turned the conch, its interior gleaming like moonstone. He apologized, for everything. Said Henry made him see the cost of weakness. Marcus took the shell, his thumb brushing mine. Weak men build on sand. Strong ones, he nodded toward the distant dockyard, rebuild wrecks. Dusk painted the sky in watercolor peach, lavender, bruised blue. We walked the tide line, collecting sea glass emerald, amber, cobalt pockets jingling with treasure. Marcus stopped, pulling something from the wet sand, a tarnished silver ship's bell, small enough to cup in his hands, clapper rusted silent. Wanderlust's lost voice? I teased. Serendipity's new laugh, he decided, polishing it with seawater. It gleamed dully. We'll hang it by the wheel. Remind us to make noise. That we can, he said, pressing the cold metal into my hand. After years of silence, back at camp, Eli had lit a bonfire. We ate grilled snapper off tin plates, the ship's bell between us on the crate table, catching firelight. Marcus strummed a ukulele, his voice rough but true on an old shanty. Oh, the wind was foul and the sea ran high. I joined in, harmony, tentative at first, then stronger. Eli clapped, his gold tooth flashing. Wanderlust hummin' tonight. Dre telled and shate. Later, in Serendipity's cramped berth, Marcus traced the salt-crusted line of my shoulder with the ship's bell. Cold, I protested, laughing. Making noise, he whispered, setting it aside. His kiss was warm compensation, deep, slow, tasting of wood smoke and sea salt. Outside, the real bell on a neighboring yacht chimed 8 times, clear notes across the harbor. A marker, a beginning. Next boat, I murmured against his lips. We find one with a bigger bunk. His laugh vibrated against my skin. Priorities, read. The conch sat by the orchid, moonlight spilling into its pearly heart. Wanderlust's shadow loomed beyond the porthole, no longer a ghost, but a promise taking shape in oak and hope. Progress on Wanderlust felt like wrestling a hurricane. We'd replaced the ribs, sistered frames, and started planking the starboard side oak planks steamed and bent into submission with clamps and sweat. Then the rains came. Not Antigua's usual squalls, but a tropical deluge that turned the shipyard into a red clay swamp. Water sheeted off Wanderlust's tarps, pooling in the cradle, seeping into fresh timber seams. "Check the garboards," Marcus shouted over the drumming rain, slicker plastered to his shoulders. He scrambled up the ladder, crowbar in hand. I followed, mud sucking at my boots. The lowest plank, near the keel, critical for watertight integrity, was weeping. Not dripping. Weeping. A dark stain spread along the seam where new oak met old locust. Marcus jammed the crowbar into the gap. With a sickening crack, a foot-long section splintered inward, revealing black, honeycombed rot beneath. "Termite highway," he muttered, rain dripping off his nose. Must have missed it when we replaced the frame. Bastards tunneled behind. Eli materialized like a wraith, shaking his head. Captain Briggs crying again. "Told you bad juju." "Juju my ass," Marcus snapped, uncharacteristically sharp. "It's biology. And my mistake." He slammed the crowbar down, splattering mud. The admission hung heavy. Marcus never admitted error, not with timber, not with tides. I touched his arm. "We'll cut it out." "Replank. Set us back weeks," he ground out, staring at the rotten wound. "Khalid's breathing down our necks for updates on Alia's moody planks and Wanderlust isn't Khalid," I finished firmly. "She's ours. We fix her right, however long it takes." He looked at me then, really looked, rain plastering his hair flat, frustration warring with something deeper. "You're not disappointed?" flashed back Daniel, hiding a dented fender, lying, "It was parched like that," then storming out. Avoidance, not accountability. I picked up the crowbar, hefting its weight. "Disappointed is rot. You ignore. This?" I nodded at the exposed decay. "This is just wood needing replaced. Show me where to cut." We worked through the downpour. Chainsaws screamed, throwing arcs of muddy water. Rotten wood flew like confetti. By nightfall, a jagged hole gaped in Wanderlust's side, big enough to crawl through. We stood back, dripping, surveying the damage under the flickering worklight. Exhaustion pressed down like wet wool. "Worse than I thought," Marcus admitted, shoulders slumping. "Better than finding it at sea," I countered, passing him a clean rag. He didn't take it. Instead, he pulled me close, burying his face in my rain-chilled neck. His breath hitched once, raw. "I wanted her perfect for you." The vulnerability undid me. I wrapped arms around him, feeling the tremble in his solid frame. Not from cold. From the fear of failing us the dream, this second chance neither expected. "She is perfect," I murmured into his wet hair. "Flaws and all, like her captain's." Eli coughed tactfully from the shadows. "Rum's hot, quit hugging the wreck." Around the crackling drum fire oil barrels cut in half, we drank the sweet, scalding rum. Eli recounted hurricanes past. Greta 67 waves higher than the church steeple. Wanderlust rode it out. Then Briggs's wheel washes up? Man chose to go down with her. "Stubborn fool, or loyal," Marcus said quietly, staring into the flames. "Same thing sometimes," Eli shrugged. He tossed a chunk of the rotten garboard into the fire. It hissed, spitting sparks, then caught with a hungry roar. "Burn the bad juju. Start fresh tomorrow." Later, in Serendipity's cramped cabin, Marcus traced the curve of my hip, the ship's bell hanging silent above our bunk. Rain still pattered on the deck. "Today scared me," he confessed, voice rough in the dark. "Not the rot. Thinking I'd let you down." I turned, finding his shadowed gaze. "You didn't. But I could. I'm not some hero. Just a guy with a chainsaw and trust issues." I kissed his salt-tanged lips. "My guy. With the chainsaw." A smile touched his mouth. I grew serious. Daniel never showed me his cracks. Just pretended they didn't exist. That's letting someone down. I pressed his palm flat against my chest, over my heartbeat. "Show me the rot, Marcus. I'll help you cut it out." He exhaled long, shuddering, and pulled me tight. Partners? Always. Outside, the rain eased. The fire had reduced the rotten plank to embers. Tomorrow, we'd measure fresh oak. Steam it, bend it, make Wanderlust whole again. Slow? Unperfect? True. The ship's bell chimed softly as serendipity rocked on a passing wake, a low, clear note in the damp night. Making noise, Marcus murmured, already half asleep. I nestled closer. Finally, fresh oak smells like hope. We spent days steaming the new garboard planks, bending them over the iron kettle until the wood sighed into submission, fibers softening like muscle yielding to warmth. Marcus worked the clamps with monastic focus, the setback hardening his resolve. Tighter, he'd mutter, knuckles white on the wrench. She'll fight back less if she knows she's beat. The repaired seam emerged, a scar of pale wood against Wanderlust's weathered hull, but solid. Eli thumped it approvingly. Juju reset. Briggs can dry his tears. Khalid's second email arrived. Alia's deck is telling its story beautifully. Guests adore it. Next project, a 90ft Explorer yacht. Commission enclosed. Design brief to follow. The transfer amount glowed on my laptop screen, enough to buy Wanderlust twice over. Marcus whistled, wiping sawdust from the keyboard. Explorer yacht? Meaning ice-class hulls and helipads disguised as sundecks. Meaning more invisible integrity, I sighed, but the number pulsed with possibility. We could hire help. Speed this up. Marcus shook his head, gesturing to where Boyd's nephew Kofi was carefully sanding a fresh plank. We've got help. Real help. Not yacht-polishing robots. Kofi flashed a gap-toothed grin, rhythm steady. Besides, Marcus added softly, rushing this feels wrong. Like cheating her, he touched the ship's bell hanging near the wheel, its tarnish slowly yielding to weekly polish. Some songs need slow singing. We celebrated the sealed hull that Saturday. Not with rum, but with silence. Sailing serendipity out to Cade's Reef, we dropped anchor in sapphire water. Marcus handed me a mask. See what we're building for. Below, the world shifted. Coral castles rose in psychedelic blooms. Staghorn forests, brain coral labyrinths, parrotfish grazing like living jewels. A hawksbill turtle glided past, unbothered, ancient eyes meeting mine. Marcus pointed, a sunken anchor crusted in centuries of growth, its iron bones embraced by tendrils of soft coral. Time making wreckage beautiful. Surfacing, I treaded water, salt stinging my lips. It's why you do it, isn't it? The restorations. Not just the boats. This. He floated on his back beside me, the Antiguan sun bronzing his face. Reminder that broken things aren't the end. Just paused. He reached out, hooking his finger with mine. Like us. Before. Daniel's final message pinged midweek, a photo of Henry, toothless grin, smeared with pureed carrots, sitting in a high chair shaped like a sailboat. First solid food, thought you'd laugh. No plea. No regret, just a milestone shared across the chasm. I showed Marcus. He studied the high chair cheap plastic, garish colors. Kid's got taste. Prefers functional over fancy. Unlike his father, I murmured. Give the guy credit, Marcus said, surprising me. He's learning. Took guts to send that. That night, under a moon so full it bleached the stars, we christened Wanderlust's new hull section. Not with champagne. Marcus poured a slow stream of Antiguan honey onto the fresh oak, golden rivulets tracing the seam. Sweetness for the journey, he declared. Eli sprinkled crushed sea salt. Keep the tears outside. My turn. I pressed my palm against the cool, smooth wood where rot once festered. Stronger at the break, I whispered. Marcus's hand covered mine, his warmth seeping into the timber and my skin. Just like us. Later, sanding the wheel's spinal spoke under the tamarind. Marcus cleared his throat. Got a proposal. My heart stuttered. Marcus, business. He laughed, holding up grease-stained palms. Khalid's Explorer yacht, let's design it here. On Wanderlust's deck, while we finish her. He nodded toward the schooner's graceful lines. Let her inspire it. No gold leaf. Just honest curves. Strong bones. Relief and excitement tangled. Khalid wants helipads. Khalid wants legacy, Marcus countered. We'll give him both. A boat that explores and endures. He unrolled a scrap of vellum, charcoal smudging his fingers as he sketched a sleek, low-profile, wide beam for stability, portholes like watchful eyes. Steel hull, hybrid engine. But soul? All wood and wind. I added my lines, a forward observation lounge with wrap-around windows, not for show, for seeing. Here, where you'd watch icebergs or atolls. Our hands moved in tandem, his broad strokes, my details. A shared vision emerging from charcoal dust and sweat. The orchid, perched nearby, seemed to lean in, its petals catching the lantern light. "Partners?" Marcus asked, pencil pausing. I touched the ship's bell. It chimed softly, a clear, low note in the humid air. In every sense. He kissed me then, not fire but deep current, honey and salt and unwavering certainty. Above us, Wanderlust's bare masts pointed skyward, ready for sails. For horizons. For the slow, faithful song of rebuilding. Wood sings when it's ready. The rhythmic thunk, thunk, thunk of mallet on caulking iron echoed through Nelson's dockyard as we sealed Wanderlust's deck seams. Cotton thread driven deep, then paid with hot oakum until the teak wept fragrant resin. Eli called it, giving her voice back. Kofi, now our most trusted apprentice, passed me the next iron, his movements fluid as rigging in a breeze. "She's humming," Marcus observed, wiping sweat from his brow. He stood barefoot on the fresh-laid deck, surveying the curve of the bowsprit we'd wrestled into place yesterday. The schooner's silhouette was whole again, proud, hungry for the horizon. Khalid's response to our Explorer yacht designs arrived via encrypted link. Marcus projected them onto a white harp hung in Wanderlust's skeletal main salon. We watched the renderings unfold, a sleek steel hull cutting through Arctic pack ice. The forward observation lounge I'd sketched glowing warm against blue-white vastness, hybrid engines silent beneath clean lines that echoed Wanderlust's grace. "No helipad?" Khalid's voice crackled through the satellite speaker. "Helicopters scare narwhals," Marcus countered, zooming in on the crow's nest design, a modern glass pod echoing traditional rigging. "This lets you hear their horns sing." Silence. Then, the lounge, those windows. "Like eyes. For seeing deeper," I added, "not just farther." A beat. Khalid exhaled. "Build it." The screen went dark. Kofi whooped, banging a wrench against a bulkhead. Eli spat tobacco, grinning. "Told ya. Good juju now." Marcus didn't celebrate. He walked to the starboard rail, gripping the freshly varnished teak. I joined him, our shoulders brushing. Below, Serendipity bobbed patiently, the ship's bell glinting above her helm. "Nervous?" I asked. "Terrified," he admitted. "Wanderlust, she's us. Blood and blisters. That explorer?" He nodded at the blink tarp. "Feels like selling a piece of our bones." I touched the compass rose inlaid in the rail, a replica of the wheel's design. "We're not selling bones. We're sharing the blueprint." I turned his face to mine. "This schooner taught us how to build something true. Khalid's yacht? It's how we scale truth." He leaned into my palm. "When did you get so wise?" "When I stopped polishing other people's lies." We spent the afternoon stepping Wanderlust's masts. Douglas fir, 60 feet tall, hauled upright with creaking blocks and shouted coordination. When the mainmast slotted home into its mortise, the entire hull seemed to sigh, settling into its purpose. Eli rang the ship's bell 3 times, the clear notes bouncing off stone warehouses. Masts in, she stands tall. At dusk, we took Serendipity out, leaving the dockyard's clamor. Marcus anchored in Freeman's Bay, a crescent of silence where mangroves kissed still water. Fireflies winked in the green shadows. He handed me a small wooden box, oiled teak with brass hinges. "Open it." Inside, nestled in blue velvet, lay 2 items. A shipwright's scribe-polished steel, its point needle sharp. A realtor's key fob sleek titanium, etched with a compass rose. "For the next Wanderlust," he said. "And the next listing." His thumb traced the scribe. Different tools. Same hands, building what matters. The gesture unraveled me. Daniel's gifts had been distractions, sparkly band-aids over festering cracks. This was an acknowledgement. I was both. Restorer. Realtor. Whole. Marcus. Not done. He pulled a folded paper from his pocket. Khalid's Explorer yacht contract. He penned a clause in the margin: project managers, Abigail Reed and Marcus Boone. Equal partners in design, build, and legacy. No hiding behind an associates, he said, eyes fierce. You, our names, our boat, our way. The last light bled from the sky. I picked up the scribe, its weight cool and certain. Where do I sign? He laughed, the sound echoing over the water. Right here. He tapped the contract, then his lips. Both places. Later, tangled in serendipity's birth, the ship's bell chiming softly with the swell, I traced the new calluses on Marcus's poems from caulking irons and crowbars. The explorer, what'll we name her? Alia's little sister, he murmured into my hair. Too easy. I thought of rotting garboards, saltwater confessions, honey on fresh seams. Kintsugi, Japanese gold repair? Where they mend broken pottery with gold lacquer, I whispered, not hiding the breaks, making them the strongest part. He lifted my hand, kissed the scar where a splinter had gouged deep weeks ago. Perfect. Outside, the massed lights of Wanderlust glowed on the horizon, a constellation guiding us home. Our broken pieces, mended with gold, shone brighter than whole porcelain ever could. Launch day dawned breathless, still air, glassy water, the dockyard holding its breath. Wanderlust floated free of her cradle for the first time in decades, tethered only by fat fenders and hope. Her hull, once a scab of rot and peeling paint, now glowed with fresh white enamel above the racing green waterline. The salvaged wheels stood proud on her varnished helm. Brass compass rose, catching the first gold light. Eli rang the ship's bell, a deep, resonant bong that scattered pelicans from the stone quay. Captain Briggs, she's comin' home. Marcus handed me the champagne bottle, not Veuve, but local Cavalier rum, spiced and potent. Your Honor, Captain Reed, his eyes held the sea's calm depth. I stood at the bowsprit's base, bare feet planted on sun-warmed teak. The bottle felt alive in my hands, not a weapon of shattering, but a key. Below, the water mirrored the sky, flawless turquoise. Flashback, that champagne cork in my fist, Daniel's betrayal sour in my throat. Recycling bin proof. This was different. I swung. The bottle shattered against Wanderlust's stem with a joyful crash, amber rum showering the water like liquid sunlight. For journeys begun in truth. Cheers erupted. Kofi, Boyd, Eli, dock hands we bribed with promises of rum. Marcus's hand found mine, calloused thumbs stroking my knuckles. Ready to take her out? We motored slowly from English Harbor, serendipity trailing like a loyal dinghy. Past Fort Berkeley's cannons, past super yachts still sleeping off last night's excess. The wind freshened off Cade's reef, a warm, steady breath. Marcus nodded to Kofi. Hoist mainsail, canvas unfurled, snapping like gunfire before filling with wind. Wanderlust heeled gently, her deck coming alive beneath our feet. Marcus spun the wheel, the big teak spokes smooth as prophecy. I gripped the rail, laughing as spray kissed my face. She flies, Kofi yelled, clinging to the shrouds. Marcus's grin was pure sunrise. Built for it, we sailed south tracing Antieda's emerald coast. No destination, just the rhythm of wind and wave. Marcus taught Kofi to trim the jib. I plotted courses on the worn chart. The Orchid, secured in its conch shell planter, basked on the cabin skylight. At noon, anchored in a deserted bay, Daniel's final message arrived. Henry took his first steps today. Wobbled, fell, got up. Like his dad? Thought you'd appreciate the metaphor. Fair winds. Abs, I showed Marcus. He read it, then tossed his phone onto the chart table. Took him long enough to find his sea legs. Better late than sunk, I said, surprising myself with the lack of bitterness. Exactly. He pulled me close at the rail, nodding toward the horizon. Look. A pod of dolphins arrowed toward us, leaping in Wanderlust's bow wave silver streaks of pure joy. We leaned over, close enough to smell their fishy breath, close enough to touch. One veered, eyeing us with intelligent amusement before diving. Briggs saying thanks, Marcus mused. Or just playing, I countered, leaning into his solid warmth. Later, under a blanket of stars thicker than sawdust, we anchored in Deep Bay. Kofi snored below decks. Marcus and I lay on the foredeck, pillows made of coiled rope, the ship's bell a dark silhouette against the Milky Way. Kintsugi's keel gets laid next month, he said. Maine or here. Here, I decided instantly. Let her taste Caribbean sun from birth. And us? His hand found mine in the dark. After Kintsugi, serendipity needs refitting. Or Bali? That schooner in Lombok you found? I turned my head, his profile a familiar cut against the starfield. Wherever the next wreck is. Romantic, he chuckled. Real, I corrected. He rolled onto his side, propped on an elbow. Starlight caught the silver at his temples, the scar on his chin from a flying splinter. Marry me, Abigail Reed. No ring. No Neil, just Marcus solid as oak, restless as the tide. I touched the compass rose on the rail beside us, the wood smooth under my fingertips. Only if we do it here. On Wanderlust. Eli can officiate. Kofi as witness. Deal. He kissed me, slow, deep, tasting of rum and salt and forever. The schooner rocked beneath us, a gentle lullaby. At dawn, I found the orchid blooming, 3 perfect white flowers unfurled toward the rising sun. Drama queen, I thought, smiling. You knew all along. Marcus handed me a steaming mug. First watch, Captain. I took the helm, the wheel cool and sure. Marcus stood behind me, hands resting on my shoulders as I pointed Wanderlust into the light. The sails filled, the hull sang. Behind us, Antigua shrank to an emerald smudge. Ahead, open ocean, uncharted. Ours,